Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this MAD LABZ episode of the Madness podcast. I am joined by Stefan Tueger, who is the Executive Director at Lion Rock Education based out of Hong Kong. Stefan, how are you doing?
Hi, Nick. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. I'm very fine. Thank you.
Good. And I hear you've just been on a bit of an epic European adventure. You were just telling me before the recording started. How many countries did you make it to?
I believe we are in the 9th country now.
9 countries. Okay. And you're heading back to Hong Kong tomorrow, is that correct?
Yes, back to Hong Kong tomorrow. Correct. Yes.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, so Stefan, you have come on as our expert to talk about how international schools can get the most out of their agent and consultant network, which I know will be a topic that's of serious interest to our listeners. If it's all right, I think we should probably start with some definitions. So, for the uninitiated, what on earth are agents? What on earth are consultants? What are the similarities and what are the differences?
That's actually a very good question. I think in general, both are quite similar, but the main difference is that education consultants actually work for the family and education agents work for the schools. And the way I see it is because education consultants are usually getting paid by the family. So they work in the best interest of the family. And they look at all schools that are out there. So they have the full width and the full breadth. And they really also analyze the family and the student in order to find the best matching school. Whereas education agents, they usually have a list of schools which pay them. And then they try to place the student within these schools and then get paid by the schools. So there's not that much in-depth research about the family, but more to be able to place the student as soon as possible. And also on the other side, of course, I mean, schools will get more honest feedback from us about how parents think about their school, whereas agents will probably not tell the whole truth about what parents think about their schools. I think it goes both ways. And also this is the reason why we decided to become consultants, not agents.
Interesting, potentially controversial. So different motivations, different perspectives there. That's really fascinating. Can you talk about some of the things that a consultant might do? So you've said that they work for the families and they'll kind of explore the fit of a particular school for the family's child or children. How does that work in practice, Stefan? What do consultants actually do on the ground?
I believe working with the families really needs a lot of time to spend during the research phase, actually meeting the family, meeting the parents, meeting the child. And in many cases, we also work directly with the student, especially those who have reached the teenager age. We just finished a project with a 15-year-old, and she actually managed the project from the beginning till the end. And we also actually are very close with the schools. So we visit a lot of schools and we have very good relationships with schools. And again, as I said, it's about finding the best fit because there are many schools out there. And of course, also many parents, I think, approach consultants, and many parents will ask for the usual top popular schools. But in many cases, we then also turn around and tell them, actually, after our research and after talking to you, after having all the knowledge about your family, we would suggest different schools, a different set of schools instead. And then very often this also comes as a surprise to the family. But also in many cases, they follow our advice, and many parents are really happy about that we don't just target those schools that everyone is targeting, but schools where the student would actually thrive and have an amazing educational future. I think this is really the difference, to really use our intelligence and also the ability to read between the lines and to really grasp what kind of character the student actually has.
Interesting. All right. Thanks for that. So on the podcast, we have listeners from, I don't know, at last count, 70 plus countries around the world. So could you give our listeners who work in lots of different kinds of schools in lots of different kinds of roles, can you give them a sense of the kind of agent and consultant landscape around the globe as you're aware of it? You know, are agents and consultants particularly present in some markets rather than others, or are they kind of a feature of the international kind of school landscape, globally?
Yeah, good point. I believe it heavily depends on the region and also on the knowledge of the parents. So I believe in terms for day school consultancy, I believe Hong Kong is quite an outlier. I'm not sure if there's any other city or region actually that would require consultants like us. Maybe China, maybe Singapore, maybe Dubai. But because the market here is so competitive, so mature, there's so much demand. Actually, there are less and less spaces available, especially the very competitive schools. I mean, they have waitlists for years. It's in many cases, the probability is extremely low to actually get an offer. But if you look more like boarding schools, colleges, university guidance, I think there are many, many agents all over the world. And I think it's also it's a great service because most families, let's say if you're in Hong Kong and you want to apply for boarding school in the UK or in Canada, you just don't know the market. So I think agents can also help you a lot to facilitate the whole process. But an educational consultancy like us and with this in-depth service and knowledge, I think it's quite unique in the Hong Kong region.
The Madness podcast is brought to you by Doris, the impartial platform that helps families and schools find their perfect match. For parents, Doris is the easiest way to find, compare and shortlist international schools that fit their needs. For schools, it's a way to reach and influence families while they're actively considering schools. Doris is free for parents and already helping hundreds of thousands of families worldwide. Follow Doris on LinkedIn or visit doris.school.
Interesting. Go on. So you kind of touched on Hong Kong specifically there as a uniquely competitive market. Not everyone listening will be familiar with the kind of nuances of Hong Kong. So what's happening there? What do you mean by competitive? You mentioned, long wait lists. Like what's happening on the ground in Hong Kong's international school scene?
I mean, look at Hong Kong in general. It's one of the financial centers in the world, and many families and many professionals come to Hong Kong to start their career or build their businesses. And Hong Kong has always been the gateway between the East and the West. And in particular, in Hong Kong, I don't know about other international schools market, but in particular, Hong Kong, actually, you can attend international schools no matter the passport. And this opens the opportunities for all families, no matter if they come from Hong Kong, from China, from any Western countries. And in Hong Kong, also the difference between the international schools market and the local market is so vast, so big, that most families, especially those coming from foreign countries, it's pretty much impossible for them to send their child to a local school because of the culture, the language, the way things are taught. And in particular after COVID, I mean, there was a short window during COVID when actually it was easier to get into a school. But now Hong Kong is back in the swing. Hong Kong is back, really. And many families are coming to Hong Kong. And also, of course, many families from the mainland through the so-called talent scheme. So it's very crowded. And also many schools have this, they have their nose a little bit high, to be honest. Especially those very established and very popular schools. And you need to know how to approach these schools. You need to prepare for the interviews, which can be quite tough, quite hard. You cannot just show up and hope for the best. So, and we see it a lot, actually, that parents try themselves first, and then they come to us after they failed. And that's okay. But it's a very mature market, very competitive, a lot of unwritten rules. It's a very bad about relationships. You cannot buy your way in. It doesn't really help if you know someone sitting in the board, for example. You always have to go through the proper procedure. It's very transparent, very fair in Hong Kong. And again, I mean, most families also, they just don't expect how hard it is. Let's say you're from the UK and you have a new job in Hong Kong. They would never expect how hard it is, how challenging it is to actually get a seat in one of the Hong Kong schools.
Interesting. That's really useful. Thanks, Stefan. So you are a consultant, but we've brought you on as our expert in both agents and consultants. I'm going to ask you in a second, what are your top 3 tips for how schools can better use those networks? But for anyone who's not familiar, thank you. That's a really interesting introduction to agents and consultants in general, and also to what's happening in Hong Kong. But could you just give, for anyone who is, again, uninitiated, a sense of how schools currently use their agent and consultancy networks? Like, what part of the kind of marketing and admissions jigsaw do they kind of fill, or what part of the mix do they occupy? How are they being used by schools?
Yeah, so I mean, some schools will, of course, also offer commissions for agents or consultants. Mm-hmm. But majority of the schools, really, because they don't need that. There's already enough demand on their side. But of course, if you work with a consultant, if you work with a trusted partner, then the schools are also more open to receive applications that come through consultants like us, because we pre-vetted these families. And of course, the school will know that these families are actually much more serious. Because we also, of course, we see it a lot. I mean, families will apply by themselves and they will just, how we call it, spray and pray, right? So they will apply for many, many schools without putting much thought into it. But if you work with a consultant like us, we actually pre-select, we pre-filter. And this also leads to a much better outcome for the schools, because those families we put forward are also quite likely to actually really enroll with the school. And this is what is really appreciated by the schools.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. And Stefan, in a previous life, you were a marketing and admissions director at a school. So for you in that role, agents and consultants, like what space did they occupy? Like what did they kind of do that you couldn't do? How did they extend your school's reach? Like, how did you use them when you were in the role yourself?
Yes, so in fact, I worked for several international schools here in the region, including Yuchong International School, Shrewsbury International School, Kido Preschools, and German-Swiss International School. And I also built pretty solid and deep connections with many consultants, which are now my competitor. It's a bit awkward. Yes. But I must also say that I was never really impressed with most consultants. Or which I would probably more consider like agents.
Yeah.
Because I've seen they also brought, especially at GSIS, I remember there was one company and they brought like dozens of families. And we rejected all of them pretty much. Because again, the agency or the consultancy didn't take the time to really understand the family and understand our school and make it a match.
Nice. Thanks, Stefan. Okay. So we're now at your top tips. This is what the listeners really tune into these episodes for. So the title of this episode is How International Schools Can Get the Most from Their Agent and Consultant Networks. So what would be your 3 top tips? And this could be how schools can work with people in those networks better. In fact, no, I'm not going to preempt what you might say. You're the expert. So over to you. What would be your first tip, Stefan?
I think in general, reply quickly. So because especially in our field, of course we work with families who plan a few years in advance, but also majority of our families actually need a space tomorrow. So we need schools to act firmly, quickly, and decisively, and let us know if there are any openings at the moment. And also, on the other hand, it would be great if schools in general could be more proactive about informing us about any changes. For example, if they open more classes, if there's a new principal coming, if they have spaces, if someone left in a particular year group, for example. I think this would be very helpful. And in general, just work more closely with the consultants and really also use them as an echo hall, as someone who gets the direct and unbiased and honest feedback from the parents, and also ask us, hey, Stefan, like, what do parents actually think about our school? And is there anything that we can address it? And then the last one, usually it's a very factual one actually, but it's about, will the school bus actually go to the district that we are moving to, for example? This is a big one for families, because if there's no school bus right in front of your door, then it's actually almost impossible to get to the school. So, and many schools actually don't publish this information on their website, like school bus timetables, for example, like very, very factual things, really. So these are a few things. But in general, I think working with schools actually is going very well.
Nice. Okay, so your top tips, I think there were 4 in there. It is speedy replies. It is proactively communicate with your agents and consultants and tell them about any changes that might be happening. The third is to use them as kind of like, I suppose, like you're kind of like moles in the world of the parent. You're hearing the stuff that maybe schools don't hear. So I think that's really interesting. And the fourth one was equip them with specific answers and specific information that they can then communicate to the family. And the example that you gave there was school bus routes, which I think is like, it's a really easy one to overlook, but I think it's quite a pertinent issue if you're deciding where to live.
Yes, correct. Yes.
All right, Stefan, thank you. So we're coming to the end of your episode. That was amazing. Thanks for an insight into the world of agents and consultants, and thank you for your top tips. We've mentioned a few times you are the executive director at Lion Rock Education based in Hong Kong. So Stefan, this is your opportunity. What is Lion Rock Education?
What is Lion Rock Education? So again, my background is that I have worked in international schools for more than 12 years here in Hong Kong in local, regional, and also global roles. And I've met hundreds, if not thousands, of families during that time. And I've always noticed how shallow the knowledge of parents actually is, especially for those coming from outside the region, because they just don't know how competitive and challenging it is. So that brought me actually to launch Lion Rock Education, to really actually take a lot of time to digest and understand what each family is all about. The character, not only the student, but also the whole family, because also the family has to match the community of the particular school. Do you really want to have a beer with the other families, or will you feel left out a little bit? And of course, it's also my passion, because I've worked in the industry for many, many years. And I've built really solid relationships with many schools. And I really want to give children a better future. And again, stop wasting time, money, effort, traumatic experiences, and really make it a smooth process for the families. Because imagine you relocate to a different country, especially from the West to Asia. It's quite frightening. And many parents actually underestimate how complicated and how tough it is to find a place in a school, which is usually the hardest task in the whole move. And this is where we step in and say, okay, we take your hand and we guide you through the whole process as smooth as possible. And our service really includes everything from the research to the application, to the interview preparation, and then to decide which school to choose. It's a one-stop solution. It could take 4 weeks. It could take 2 years. We are here for you, and that's what we do. And you will also work directly with me, actually. So you will not be handed over to a junior staff.
Nice. Okay, thanks so much, Stefan. And if people want to find out more, where can they find you online?
So we have a website called www.lionrockeducation.hk, or of course they can also find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. And we are also available via WhatsApp, WeChat. But I think the first stop should be our website at lionrockeducation.hk.
Nice. So everyone check out lionrockeducation.hk, and then you have a veritable smorgasbord of contact options from there should you wish to get in touch with Stefan. So Stefan, thank you so much for being a great guest on this episode of the Madness podcast, MAD LABZ, and I hope we speak to you again very soon.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you, Nick, and have a nice day.